Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Manish Shrestha, working as Assistant Professor at Haryana School of Business, GJ University of Science and Technology, Hisar. Today, we are going to discuss about the topic compensation and job evaluation. Before starting the discussion, let's have a look at the contents. The discussion will start with introduction, followed by process of compensation management, then a concept of equity in compensation management, job evaluation, and ends with a summary. By the end of this module, students will be able to understand the concept of compensation management, able to explain the process of compensation and explain concept of equity in compensation management, and finally, they are able to understand the concept of job evaluation. Fairness and contentment in compensation is very important aspect in the compensation management system of any organization. Equity matters gain impact amongst employees within the organization and with similar employees in different organizations. This also gives birth to the feeling of difference between self-worth and the compensation received. So, to bring equity into the compensation system, job evaluation is a must for all organizations. In this module, we will discuss the consideration for compensation and job evaluation as the most significant parameter for equity in compensation plans. Before going ahead, it is important to understand the process of compensation management. It is a 6-stage process. The first stage is job analysis and evaluation. In simple words, job evaluation means to analyze and evaluate the work so as to determine appropriate compensation and do full justice to the job with right set of knowledge and skills. And on the other hand, do compete justice with the right level of compensation to the specific skill set. It is a process in which jobs are studied for the purpose of determining appropriate compensation levels for individual jobs or job elements. There are 4 techniques for job evaluation: ranking, point method, classification, and factor comparison. The compensation policy. Compensation policy and practices are specified by the organization with an aim of creating a flexible, competitive and performance-oriented compensation environment that allows the organization to recruit and motivate employees to meet organizational goals while pursuing individual progress. The compensation policy guides the problems relating to the compensation package, keeping in view internal and external factors. Internal factors contain business strategy, HR strategy and compensation philosophy, while external factors contain internal labor market, external factor, market rate and so on. The third step in the process is design and implementation of compensation plan. Designing and compensating compensation system includes compensation level, compensation structure, compensation payment system decisions. First, compensation level decision ascertains whether an organization will have a lead, lag or match policy. Compensation decisions made by an organization can affect individual and group levels, significances including performances, skill development, work-related outlooks and workforce composition. Second, compensation structure decisions ascertain the minimum and maximum levels of compensation, the general relationship between levels of compensation and marketplace rate, and finally, the division of total compensation amount into fixed and variable compensation. Once these decisions are undertaken, compensation plans and systems are implemented. The fourth step is organization strategy. The organization which sees employees as talent investment would have HR strategy. build around competitive advantage through people. In these organizations, compensation strategies play a vital role and has variety of other business roles. In such organization, compensation plays a leading role such as high risk and high return incentive plans and performance based incentives. Those organizations which consider people to be the valuable resources should focus on strategy for achieving strategic goals and objectives of the organization. In such organization, compensation plays a significant role in HR strategy for inspiring people for accomplishing organizational objectives. Therefore, organizations which view its employees as a factor of production would have an HR strategy that concentrate on implementing decisions of the line management. Next step is analysis of contingent factor. From time to time, every organization has to analyze the bottlenecks that they are facing as may have to face in near future. These factors play a major role in deciding the compensation levels because varied skills are desired by the organizations for varied types of contingent factors at different times. And the last step is evaluation and review. As we know that the compensation is a systematic and dynamic concept, thus it must be evaluated in terms of human resource satisfaction, productivity and moral values. Reviewing of compensation decision has to be made from time to time as per the social, political and economic demands of the society and nation at large. This review is also important for employee retention and cost control for the organization. Equity is generally defined as anything gained by investing something. It must be of certain value. The basic nature of a human generalizes in assuming certain output from their inputs. Employees decide the equity of the compensation by comparing their compensation to efforts with oneself as well as with other employees within as well as outside the organization. Compensation equity is a process in which employees and the organizations test their input and output and judge fairness of compensation by comparing input and output. Input includes equity in job performance, education, length of service, amount of responsibility, pressure and experience. Output includes compensation and benefits, promotion, status, incentives, rewards, etc. If employees recognize that they are under or overcompensated, they may experience guilt or anger, which may affect their future performance, and they may try to regain equity by changing inputs or outputs by using a different method of comparison. For example, if human resource manager working in information technology sector compares his compensation with other human resource managers working at other locations within the same industry and observes that his compensation is less than others, then question arises on internal equity and compensation. On the other hand, if the HR manager compares his compensation with other HR managers working in sectors other than IT sector and observes that his compensation is less, then question of external equity arises. Therefore, if the HR manager perceives that his compensation is far less than what he believes is his notion of fair compensation, keeping in view his qualification, experience, ability and performance, then individual dissatisfaction in compensation arises. Organizations have to adjust compensation to retain individual, otherwise it will result in turnover and its related implicit and explicit costs. There are three different types of equity: internal equity, external equity, and individual equity. Internal equity refers to comparing responsibilities, job duties, accountability, formal training and experience of one job to another. Internal equity means establishing equitable level of compensation for same kind of work. In other words, creation of differentials in compensation based on relative differences in jobs. This demands creation of bands of compensation ranging to create differentials so that these are able to justify equity as to the level of compensation and level of job. One way to achieve internal equity is through job analysis and evaluation. Internal equity is also explained as comparison employees make to other employees within the same organization. The internal equity considerations include the following factors like competencies of job holders and their skills for a particular position, productivity level, difference in performance level of employees working on the same positions, and ability to attract and retain competent employees. External equity is the relative worth of a comparable job with the labor market and its adjustments to reflect the economic marketplace. External equity is the result of comparisons made between two same jobs of different organizations. Generally, organizations try to achieve external equity through the labor market as they provide a benchmark for compensation for the competence, that is, they adjust their compensation levels than the labor market forces. External equity in compensation refers to comparisons employees make with similar employees performing similar jobs at other organizations. Individual equity: when the comparison is within the same job and same organization, then individual equity is generated. It is usually believed that individual equity has the most effective impact on employees' performance because this is where he is judging himself, his abilities, his performance, his skills, his achievements against his own compensation. Equity considerations play a very vital role in an organization because of their behavioral consequences. Employees have the capacity to change inputs. Inequity may bring changes in efforts and hence performance. Internal, external, and individual underpayment will be negatively related to change in performance, whereas overpayment lead to positive changes in performance. After analyzing the cost and benefit, organizations frequently use equity-based compensation to attract, encourage, and reward employees. This definitely helps organizations to perform better in all aspects, maybe social or financial. There are various ways to improve equity in compensation management. The first one is to categorize employees by job. Categories should be ascertained in a prudent way so that they are neither too broad nor too narrow. Broad categories can cause the compensation system to be cumbersome and difficult to administer, and narrow categories create unique jobs which may further complicate processes. Second way is to compare with the labor market. Organizations should carry out compensation review to benchmark their compensation level with that of competitors. Reviews can be conducted by the organization itself or through survey posted on the internet or engaging advisor. Survey provides a foundation with which to create financial values for the jobs. It can provide information for creating compensation ranges. It also provides an idea on how many job levels to create for each job group. Third way is to manage internal equity. Managing internal equity is more cumbersome and critical than external equity. An employee is more interested to know the compensation of his fellow employees in the organization than the compensation of an employee in other organization. Employee will also have a good base for compensation comparison because he has a better idea of what the employee's jobs and performance is. Another way is to link compensation with performance. Employees whose performance is better than the other employees should get the higher salary than the others. A recent survey showed that majority of employer and employees believe that there must be a relationship between pay and performance. This is the best method for motivation and brand loyalty. The final way is to communicate compensation system. A proper communication will vary from organization to organization. Most of the organizations do not communicate about their compensation plan with their employees. It is the employee's duty to communicate with their employees about compensation. Employers often hesitate to say much due to the fear that they will have to justify some perceived compensation inequality. This creates a doubt in the minds of employees. Therefore, equity consideration in compensation management is important to employees, job performance, pleasure and retention. Job evaluation is one of the methods to achieve compensation equity. It helps to formulate fair compensation differentials among jobs and rejects discrepancies in compensation system. Job evaluation is an activity of job analysis, assessment and comparison in order to know the job requirements such as duties, responsibilities and experience required for carrying out the job effectively. A job evaluation can be defined as a process of determining the relative worth of the various jobs within the organization so that differential wages may be paid to jobs of different worth. Job evaluation is the process of assessing the relative size of jobs within an organization. It is also understood as a procedure undertaken in many organizations to determine the worth of jobs to the organization. And job evaluation is used to measure the worth of jobs to the organization and allow comparison with jobs in other organizations for the purpose of establishing market-based rates of pay. The various objectives of job evaluation are to collect information and data relating to job description and job specification for various jobs in an organization, to compare one job with other jobs relating to duties, responsibilities and demand, to ascertain the ranks and grades to various jobs, to find out the hierarchy based on their importance, to prevent discrimination on the basis of gender, caste, religion, etc. and finally, fair and unbiased fixation of compensation for the jobs of equal value. Job evaluation is not an art or scientific process because there is no scientific way of measuring jobs. In fact, it is a process of judgment. The accuracy of the results it provides can only be assessed in terms of acceptability to the huge majority of applicants to whom it is applicable. Job evaluation is based on certain principles such as evaluate jobs, not job holders. Under this principle, jobs are rated but no evaluation of the employee performing the job is done. Evaluation of a job solely depends upon organizational reality. Care should be taken to evaluate jobs at a fully acceptable standard of performance. Simple elements. Elements selected for evaluation must be clearly understood by all concerned. Therefore, understanding of the job is must. This demands clear definition of all elements related to the job. Next is the elements must be defined clearly and properly selected. Similar methods should be used to assess the job content, that is, criteria for selection of elements should be distinct and appropriate. Managers should be motivated to participate in rating the jobs. Employees' cooperation must be encouraged in the job evaluation process. Exchange views with the manager and employees about rating, avoiding discussion on monetary aspects. This acts as a review to justify the process and judgment. And finally, extreme compensation levels should be avoided. There are various techniques of job evaluation which includes ranking, point, factor comparison, job classification and computer aided. All these techniques consist of one or two approaches. A. Analysis of job as a whole. B. Analysis of each component of the job. Ranking method is the easiest, least expensive and the most convenient method of job evaluation. Under this method, people, teams and even jobs are ranked from highest value job to the lowermost value in the organization. Norms for ranking should not be ambiguous. When there are large number of people in jobs, people are easier to rank rather than jobs. Apart from ranking individuals on their solo performance, they are additionally ranked on the basis of their team performance. But the job is not divided into elements or features. Each and every job is compared with each other and its place is determined. When we rank large number of people, teams or jobs, we can use method of paired comparison. Under this approach, we compare each entity with other entity in terms of value of the organization. Overall, value of the entity is determined by the number of times that the entity is evaluated as being of larger value than the entity being compared against. If tremendously large number of comparisons need to be made, then statistical formula are available to reduce the number of comparisons required using sampling theory. Point method starts with the selection of job factors, creation of degrees for each factor and assigns points to each degree. For different jobs, different factors are selected with accompanying differences in degrees and points. More demanding the job, the higher the point value. Each job is divided into a specified number of factors that may be skill, including education, experience, initiative and ingenuity, physical effort demanded, etc. Responsibility, responsibility for tools or process, material or product and others. And third one is working conditions, including risk and hazards. Factor comparison method. Under this method, various factors like mental requirement skills, physical requirement, responsibility and working conditions remain constant for all kinds of jobs and individually each factor is ranked differently with different jobs. The total points are assigned to each factor. The worth of a job is then obtained by adding together all the point values. Job classification. This method is also known as job grading. Before sorting, an agreed number of grades are determined for each job on the basis of task performed, experience, skills, competence, initiative and responsibility. Strong differences are made between grades. The jobs in an organization are allocated to the determined grades. The number of grades are decided and then detailed grade definitions are framed. Benchmark jobs are assigned to validate the definitions. This method is essentially used where group jobs are assigned to validate the definitions. This method is used where groups of jobs can be purely defined, for example, clerical and administrative employees. Job classification system defines the value of jobs, teams or people with written standards for a hierarchy of classification level. Each classification level is defined by a number of factors that need to be present for a job. Team or people to be located into a particular classification level is also decided. These factors are usually mixed together, resulting into one standard for each classification level. Computer aided. Nowadays, job evaluation is done by using computers. It consists of computerized checking of questionnaire, answers and automated output of both job evaluation and relevant compensation reports. The merit of computer rated job evaluation is the simplification of job analysis, increased objectivity of the evaluations, less time spent in committee meetings, ability to keep job descriptions up to date. There are few essentials for the success of job evaluation. These essentials are: factors that need to be compensated must represent all the important aspects of job contents. Overlapping or duplication of compensable factors must be prohibited. Job evaluation should be easy to define and conveniently measurable. It should be easily understood by administrators and employees, and it should not involve high installation and administration cost. To understand the process of job evaluation, we have to understand the various steps involved. The first step is determine objectives of job evaluation. The goal of job evaluation program must be determined before undertaking the program. The key objective of job evaluation is to identify relative worth of different jobs in the organization in order to set up fair differentials in compensation among different jobs. Second step is planning acceptance of job evaluation program. Participation of employees, managers and top management required in job evaluation. Hence, all concerned people should be informed in advance about the goals and obligations of every employee and managers to ensure its success. Communication and participation helps in generating faith and motivate interest in the program. Then, selective jobs need evaluation and at times prove to be a tedious task. Different plan of action has to be implemented for each kind of a job that depends on its technicality and numerous other aspects. Next step is prepare job description and job specification. Under this process, compensation is differentiated amongst various jobs based on performance, responsibilities and duties related with each job. Hence, job description and job specification must be readily available. The next step relates to appointment of a committee to perform job evaluation. Job evaluation may be conducted by employees of the organization or outside advisors focusing in job evaluation program. If some employees carry out job evaluation by themselves, then their equality in assessment of relative worth may be questioned by other employees. Whereas, if outside advisors solely carry out the program, it may create a doubt and increase mistrust in the minds of employees as outsiders. Hence, a committee consisting of employees and outside advisors representative is constituted to undertake the job evaluation program. Next step is to select job evaluation method. Based on the kind of jobs to be evaluated, an appropriate method is to be selected. A specific method may be more appropriate for evaluating critical jobs, and still another method may be more appropriate for evaluating operative jobs. Judicious choice of methods has to be made for evaluating various kinds of jobs. And the last step is review periodically. Dynamic nature embracing organization, job profiles changing with the passage of time. So, it is essential to undertake periodic review once in a year. This will set to correct inequality in compensation differentials established by previous program. Job evaluation practices can cause game playing to gain additional job evaluation points. The significance of job evaluation can give rise to ongoing attempts to justify extra points by asserting changes in job conduct. It may generate an interest in setting up an empire to justify higher compensation. It can also cause erosion of honesty and credibility. The actualization among managers that job evaluation results can be gamed means that duplicity is encouraged and is often rewarded with a higher compensation grade. It can cause inflated compensation system operating cost due to the need for additional administrative staff. Conventional approach to job evaluation is based on close centralized administration which frequently demands for manpower and involve huge expenses and man hours. Then, if job evaluation process is not closely managed, it becomes simple to explain a grade increase or promotion. In some of the organizations, managers depend on the re-evaluation of jobs to activate compensation. Job evaluation system inflate the value of some jobs which are similar to existing market compensation levels. Inflated compensation cost arises when jobs are paid more than the market levels. Job hierarchy is formed effectively by evaluation. When arrayed from high to low, the points are essentially indexed for every job position in the hierarchy, and unnecessarily emphasis are laid on unimportant levels of hierarchy. When the job duties are exchanged, then comparative value of affected job changes. Some people win and others lose. If some jobs are improved while others remain constant, people may perceive that they have lost. This creates negativity in the organizational environment. The time to write job descriptions and the process for having a job reevaluated are distinctively bureaucratic. The process is contrary to responsive and fast decision making. This leads to loss of a large amount of productive time. And finally, the focus on job duties and highly formalized written descriptions often promotes an incumbent to think, this is what I am expected to do and that's what I am paid to do. In some organizations, employees believe that they should not be asked to do anything that is not in their job description. Compensable factors are the result of job evaluation. The compensable factors are mainly used to determine the suitable role to which a position should be allotted. The compensable factors are complexity of work. This factor explains the nature of work in the form of resources used or encountered and the processes applied. This factor considers the number and variety of variables considered, the breadth and depth of activity, and the originality exercised. Difficulty while doing the work, similar character of the work process, and corresponding thinking, analysis, and judgment required. Knowledge, skills, and abilities. In order to perform the assigned duties, the degree of information, qualifications, and experience are required by the employees. Human relation skills. The extent of the employee's human conversation within or outside the organization must be in terms of information exchanged. And the second one is results. This factor portrays the work outcomes and the range and impact of effects such as the surplus or deficit of resources and the goodwill created. Impact. Employees directly affected by the range of people. Consequence of error. The expected cost of the employee's mistake in the form of efficiency, moral, financial, and human cost. Effect of services. Range to which decisions and work products made by the employees affects the services welfare of constituents, quality of work, cost of operations, and the goodwill of the organization. And finally, accountability. This factor explains the employee's authority and responsibility which will guide the fellow workers, independency and autonomy of functioning. Leadership. Employees control over the resources such as facilities, people, functions and budget. Independence of action states freedom of action exercised by the employees. And finally, judgment and decision making says types of decision taken by the employee and the corresponding action taken for the same decision. In order to summarize the discussion, compensation management process is a strategic process aligning pay, benefits and incentives of employees with organizational objectives and goals. It is a strong instrument for change and a major determinant of the culture of an organization. Equity refers to the principle of justice and correctness. Compensation equity is a process where organization and employees test their inputs and outputs and judge the fairness of compensation by comparing input and output of a referent other. Internal compensation equity refers to the comparison made by the employees with the fellow employees within the same organization about their compensation, while external compensation equity refers to the comparisons made by the employees about their compensation with similar employees performing the same job but in different organization. Individual compensation equity refers to the self-comparison between compensation differential and competence. There are several ways to improve equity in compensation management, and it involves categorizing employees by job, comparing with labor market, managing internal equity, linking compensation with performance, and communicating compensation system. Job evaluation refers to the process of determining the relative worth of various jobs within the organization in order to establish compensation differentials among jobs. Principles of job evaluation includes evaluation of jobs, not job holders, simple elements, clearly defined, buy-in, managerial participation, employees' participation, deliberation, and optimal occupations. Techniques of job evaluation include ranking method, point method, factor comparison method, and job classification method. Process of job evaluation includes certain steps like determining objectives of job evaluation, planning acceptance of job evaluation program, selecting jobs to be evaluated, prepare job description and job specification, appointing a committee to perform job evaluation, selecting job evaluation method, and finally review periodically. Happy learning!